in good times, what tends to happen, you don't think to innovate. You're just very happy with the way things are going. And then when you get into the bad times, you don't have the resources to really innovate and think of new things.
Michael, I totally agree that there's lots of room for advancement. That's what Martin and I are all about.
And I think we need to make a shift away from this rental model, if you will.
I think people's minds are open. People need to see it.
Every industry has a moment when it has to confront its own outdated systems. Welcome to Full Resolution. For years, Hospitality AV has operated on a model built around rentals, line items, and complexity. We helped build that system, and now we're here to challenge it. There's a clearer, smarter approach rooted in ownership, operational efficiency, and real revenue growth. Join us, and let's get this movement started.
Welcome back to the Full Resolution podcast. I'm Chirag Patel.
And I'm Martin Kwitschau. Today in the studio with us, we are absolutely pleased to have a gentleman whose career has spanned 45 years. And in fact, he's been a part of at least 25 hotels and worked for 6 different management companies. And Michael Stevens, we're thrilled to have you in the studio today. Welcome.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Chirag. Gosh, it makes me tired just hearing of all those hotels and all those years. But thank you. It's great to be here today. And, in addition to, my expansive career, I've also had a lot of knowledge and a lot of understanding of those hotels that I've been a part of in the space of meetings and events. That has been a cornerstone of honestly every hotel that I've been a part of. So this is a subject that I'm very excited to talk about because obviously over those years I've formed a lot of opinions on where the meetings and events business has been. And ultimately where I believe the meetings and events business should be going.
Well, that's exactly why we wanted to have you on the podcast. We wanted to take this from theory to reality, and how better to do that than to actually have somebody with decades of experience of boots on the ground that knows how the old system operates, or we'll call it the old method, and how perhaps in the future there is a new method that makes 100% sense to move toward.
Yeah, I agree. I've had these thoughts for a while. Actually, you and I, Martin, have had these thoughts for a while. And, Chirag, I know we've known each other for a bit. Martin and I have worked on several hotels over the years. And this is not a new notion for me. Several years ago, I started to see what was happening in downturns in the economy. And the meetings business thrives typically when the economy is great. And it's one of the first things to go when the economy is not doing well. That is an interesting point because, in good times, what tends to happen is you kind of you don't think to innovate. You're just, very happy with the way things are going. And then when you get into the bad times, you don't have the resources to really innovate and think of new things. So it's interesting to me that with the vulnerability that we've all seen in this space, that things haven't really ever, I don't think they've ever really changed, as it relates to, certainly not in the 45 years that I've been a part of it. That being said, I do believe that not only from the consumer's perspective, where there needs to be more value proposition to how meetings are unfolding, but from the ownership of hotels and from the operator of hotels, how it can and could be different. So I think that while there's been a lot of vulnerability, I don't think it's going to get any less vulnerable. And if there was ever a time that we should be thinking differently about our business, when we're constantly looking for ways that we can be more competitive in the space. Let's face it, most hotels have the same things that they're offering, beautiful ballrooms, let's say, or, wonderful spaces, located in prime locations. So, if you had a string of hotels that all offered the same thing, you know, in many sectors of our business, we're constantly looking at how can we do things differently so that we are more attractive, so that we're more competitive, so that we have differentiators within the property that are going to cause guests to want to stay with us or be with us. It's interesting that we haven't necessarily figured out how to do this in the meetings and events side.
Michael, I totally agree that there's lots of room for advancement. That's what Martin and I are all about. But why hasn't the hospitality industry changed and evolved? What's holding them back from your perspective?
There's two couple things, but I think primarily no one's come up with anything compelling that is going to cause us as an operator or an owner of a property to think differently about it. And I also think that those that plan meetings are somewhat stuck in what they've traditionally done. I think that that's typically where, um, while we might have thought of new ways to innovate or new things to potentially do, um, our brain goes to, well, that consumer, that meeting planner, they've been doing things in a very traditional way, and they're not going to necessarily want to do things differently. But because of where pricing has gone, as an example, or the accessibility, like there's so many different things that have happened. I think recently, I think there is a time now where people will be open to where things are going.
I agree. Technology has changed a lot. Those same meeting planners before, when they had all the attendees fly in, they used to call the travel agent. They never booked it online, right? They used to call travel agent. They used to call you in person. For the most part, they probably still call you in person, but their day-to-day business now is booking something online. And my point to say that is technology has changed everything. And I don't think people are looking at the fact that this space can be changed with technology. And that's what Martin and I are constantly talking about is we don't have to do it the old way. Technology can enable us to do it this way. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. And as we're seeing more and more things, within different sectors of other businesses that are changing, and the embracing of technology in those spaces have changed, and we're seeing how there can potentially not only be efficiency with it, but a better outcome ultimately at the end of the day. I think people's minds are open. I think that it's kind of a market, though, where people need to see it. And I think that's where we haven't necessarily been yet. I know we're going to talk about, certain things that can change, but I think that's where we're at. If we can illustrate to the market that there is a different way and show that it can work, that's where I think that the consumer will eventually change and eventually embrace.
And I think we need to make a shift, Michael, away from this rental model, if you will. There was a time, perhaps, when we had slide projectors and overhead projectors where the one off rental made absolute sense in the industry. But it just doesn't seem to make sense, especially when we're getting, at the pricing levels we are for flip charts. We're including power strips and cables and adapters. And realistically, I think personally we should be moving toward a model where the equipment really is the canvas, while the attention is completely focused on the outcome, rather than charging a customer one line item at a time for all these pieces and parts.
And what's really changed, this is your side of the business, not mine, but from what I've seen as a consumer, um, you know, great products are very accessible now. And the economy of scale is definitely there. I believe this for some time now. And I have not been in a position to do this in any of the hotels that I've operated. And I've opened um, in the last 6 years. I've opened 3 hotels. Um, I believe that installing and having your equipment and your technology built in and integrated into the facility is the way to go. Um, and again, you're not necessarily seeing wholesale change year over year in the equipment. The technology has been pretty stable and is definitely there, and the prices have certainly gone down. And I also believe you can do this in a very elegant way, in a way that even if you're a high end luxury hotel, that is not going to compromise the experience that multiple guests from either a social event to a corporate event, would find, not intuitive to what your space is really all about. So I think that's where, for me, the conversation starts is integrating the equipment into the meeting space itself. And again, this isn't a new thought. This is a thought that I've had for many, many, many years. And I've been living with that thought for many, many years. And why? Well, just the hauling of equipment in and out every day. Imagine, the wear and tear that it does on a facility, the labor that it takes, to do it, and just the inability to really turn on a dime. If you can say to a meeting planner, this is the best and most optimal way to do a presentation within this room, I think most meeting planners are going to be just fine with that. That seems to be a big, point of discussion is like where to put the equipment. But I think you can easily figure it out in just about in every space. And sure, a producer might say, well, I really wanted it on the long wall instead of the short wall. But um, honestly, if you're able to produce the meeting and in a way that is intuitive to the space where everyone is really enjoying the content, everybody's going to be just fine with that. There's no question in my mind that everyone would be fine with that. But that seems to be one of the reasons why people don't want to do it. But also, again, we just went over the labor side of it. There's just tremendous savings ultimately at the end of the day. And, we've all been there when a customer has said to us, hey, I didn't want to buy the monitor. I just wanted to rent it for the day. And how many times have we seen someone actually go out and buy their own monitor and then show up, to the presentation with it? And I mean, that happens. It happens in hotels because people are just um, very frustrated at the notion that we would have the gumption to charge so much for things. And this is going to create, a lot of efficiency. It's going to lower pricing, and it's going to put pricing at a reasonable place, and it's going to focus the energy and the attention not on moving equipment in and out, but on the actual production of the meeting itself. And I think that's where the magic can really happen in terms of adding value from the people that are actually producing the meeting on site.